Hi everyone, it's Paula Peralta, Artistic Director for John Paul Mitchell Systems, and this is Specialist Spotlight. Today you're going to see Janari's transformation all the way from hair color done by the incredibly talented Jose Avila through her silk press and into a curly ponytail installation. So grab your notebook and get ready to enjoy this episode of Specialist Spotlight. Hi everyone, it's my pleasure to show you how to begin a silk press. I'm here with Janari and I will be using one of my favorite products, Neuro Prime. It has incredible heat control technology. It's a blow dry primer that not only has thermal protection, but it's gonna leave the hair super silky, super smooth. Let me show you how it's done. So I wanna use just a couple of pumps to begin with. The trick with doing a silk press is you actually wanna use a smaller amount of product on the foundation. I find that most people when they're working with curly hair have a tendency to use too much product when they're blowing the hair smooth, but not enough product when they're styling the hair naturally. So as you see, I've taken that Neuro Prime and I'm starting to stretch the hair and tell it where I want it to go. I want that length, so I'm working that product through from base to tip. I still have a little product on my hands. So again, I'm gonna start at the base and almost use like a praying hand to start to move and stretch that curly hair. I'll use a little bit more Neuro Prime, a couple more pumps. I'm gonna work it through my hands, almost like lotion, so that every strand can be completely encapsulated by this incredible product. So what I like to do is actually work in sections. So I'm first gonna be working through this front right quadrant, which means that that's where I'm gonna apply the Neuro Prime. I'm not worried about the rest of the hair yet because I wanna make sure that every single section has incredible saturation. Once it's fully saturated, I will stretch that hair one more time, and then I'll clip it up in a way so that I can maintain the moisture as I go through and apply to the rest of the hair. So now that I have that front right quadrant, I'm going to move over to the left side of the hair and do the exact same thing. I start with a couple of pumps of the Neuro Prime. Rub it on my hands just like lotion so that every curl can be completely encapsulated. And I'm gonna start in the bottom of my section, working through and making sure that every curl is saturated. Once I have that section saturated, I'm gonna take my praying hands again and move down nice and slow to start to move and seal that cuticle. So same thing in my next section, push the rest of her hair out of the way. Work through just a gentle finger comb. And once I have that product saturated, again, taking my praying hands and stretching that hair down as I smooth the cuticle. Take a little more Neuro Prime, a couple of pumps. Work that around my hands like lotion. Isolate my section. Finger combs through slightly. Again, use my bottom hand as a platform. My top hand is going to form that praying motion. Then I'm going to slide down that cuticle, smoothing and stretching the hair as I go. I'll continue that with every quadrant and then we'll be back for the blow dry. So once I have all of the product applied, I like to subsection because that becomes my roadmap for the blow dry. Efficiency is really important with this because if the hair gets too dry, it won't be as silky and smooth as I'd like it to be. So I have one section in the front and then I've split the back into 4 subsections, which we'll get to in just a minute. I actually like to start in the front hairline and I will take slightly diagonal back sections to begin the blow dry process. Now, as my friend Regine says, there's a million ways to get to Walmart. So there's a lot of brushes and tools that you could use to be successful with this. The 407 styling brush gives me the perfect tension to grip and polish Janari's hair as I'm blow drying it. So I'm using our brand new Neuro Dry Plus, and I am using the concentrator. So as I come in, my blow dryer is going to follow my brush. I start with my 407, I stretch the hair, and I let my blow dryer do the work. Low and slow is really, really key here. So I'm keeping that elevation really low and I'm letting my blow dryer do the work. And you can see already how quickly the hair starts to stretch and polish. When you're doing a silk press, it really is important to choose the tools that are gonna work for you. Because if you have the right tools, you don't have to work that hard in the blowout. You can see already how that section gets really beautifully polished. I'm then just gonna come in on the underside and continue to polish all the way down. A lot of people have a tendency to want to push through the ends really quickly, but if you actually just spend those few extra seconds, you're going to get a more shiny, polished end result with more movement. The smoother I can get the blow dry, the smoother my end result is going to be, and the less work I'll have to do with my smoothing irons or my styling irons. So again, taking a diagonal back section, I'm using high heat, high airflow. I first go in with my brush to stretch and create tension, and then I slowly work the section with my Neuro Dry Plus. Slowly moving that brush through and letting that blow dryer follow. Resetting on the underside. Moving nice and slow. Resetting if I get caught. And continuing to have that blow dryer follow my brush. So again, I'll work on the top side of the section, setting my brush, letting my blow dryer follow. Now at the hairline, I'm going to brush slightly back, use my forward tension, and continue to stretch the section. I cannot overstate this enough. Let your tools do the work. So the more willing you are to just be patient, the less work you're going to have to do at the end with your irons. This is the other benefit of starting with our Neuro Prime. The heat control technology protects the hair. So I am protecting against any sort of thermal damage. And you can already start to see the shine and the polish that starts to show up with the hair. So I'm going to grab that section. I'm going to grab a little bit of that bottom section. Marry these two together. Again, moving really slow as I work through those ends. I like to use diagonal back sections because it allows me to get right to the base of the hair, which is a super important part of this process. Making sure that base is completely stretched is going to keep the style from reverting. I also want to make sure that the hair is 100% dry before I move on to my next section. Now that we have Janari's hair stretched out, we are going to begin the process of smoothing with our Neuro Smooth. The first thing I want to do is add an extra layer of thermal protection. So I'm going to use hot off the press. Instead of going section by section, I actually will apply to all of her hair at once to make sure that the hair is completely saturated and protected with the hot off the press. And once we have that mist of hot off the press, I'm then going to do the same thing and use a light mist of the Aopui Wild Ginger Shine Spray. This is going to give me a ton of polish, and it's going to help me create that silky end result that I'm looking for. So same thing, instead of working section by section, I like to apply to the entire head. And once that is done, I'm going to comb through my sections. And again, sectioning is always going to be your roadmap for success. So I like to section into 4 standard segments. We are working with a center part today. You can adjust your partings or your sectionings based on your guest's desired end result. So again, just clipping that up out of the way so it's nice and tidy. I'm gonna do the same thing in the front section. You shift to the back, just down the center back, sectioning the left side from the right side. So again, this is just a sectioning option depending on how comfortable you are with natural hair. Also depending on the density of the hair that you're working with. Sometimes you might need to adjust your sectioning or your section size. Once I go into start to smooth, I like to start working in diagonal back sections. So again, if you're new to this, I would say start in quadrant 1, work all the way up, then move back to quadrant 2. As you start to become more comfortable, you could actually drop both of these sections and work front to back all the way up to the top of the head. So again, just to show you the details here, I'm gonna start in my front right quadrant. I'm gonna take a diagonal back section clip everything up and away, except for what I'm working with. Sorry, I just jabbed you right in the face. The angle of your smoothing iron is actually really important. You want the angle of your smoothing iron to mirror your section angle so that you can get as close to the base as possible as you're smoothing. So I'm gonna have you shift slightly. So I'm gonna stretch that hair with my fingers and then come in with my iron parallel to that section. And then again, it's important to let your tools do the work. So as I move through nice and slow, and that hair begins the process of smoothing out. I am currently working at 360 degrees. Some people like to work a little smooth, a little less. Some like to use a little more. I would say you want to look at the texture that you're working with. A more coarse texture, you could probably turn up your heat. If it's a finer texture, you want to turn down your heat. So again, I've created my diagonal back section. I'm gonna come in with my iron, mirroring that section. Move through nice and slow, let my tool do the work. Another little pro tip, a lot of people as they go through and smooth, they wanna immediately brush through the hair. My tip is to not do that. Just like when you set hair with a curling iron and then you wait for it to cool before you brush out the curls, you wanna do the same thing when you're doing your silk press. Let the hair set and cool so that you can really maximize your end result and then start to brush through the hair. You'll get a much more silky end result and less reversion. So when we get to the hairline, her hairline is a bit more on the curly side. So I'm going to stretch that section and adjust my angle. So I'm going to come in again parallel to my section and move through those baby hairs. So this one I actually will break my own rule that I just told you, and sometimes I will comb it into the previous hair just so that it all marries together. So as I start to work closer to the top, my section's a little bit bigger. And so what that means is, again, based on your comfort level, you might want to split that section in half. I'll clip this away. That's gonna be section 2. This will be section 1 that I will smooth. So again, same thing. My section angle is coming this way, so I'm gonna make sure that my iron mirrors that. And again, my body position right now is a little bit weird because I wanna make sure you can see what's happening. But generally I'd be standing directly in front of my section. And then as I drop my next section, same thing. I normally would come in like this, but again, in the interest of you being able to see what's happening, I'm gonna go ahead and come this direction. Make sure to like, share, subscribe, tell all of your friends, and we'll see you on the next episode of Specialist Spotlight.